My name is Katherine. I'm 30 years old, and for most of my life, I thought I had a normal family. The kind of family that wasn't perfect, but at least trustworthy. Turns out I was wrong, painfully wrong. But before I tell you why, let me start with the moment everything changed. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning at the marketing firm where I'd been working for 6 years. I'd been pushing myself for years, taking extra projects, missing vacations, saving every bonus check and raise. My goal was simple. I wanted to buy my own home. A real home, not just a small apartment, but something with a yard, a quiet neighborhood, maybe a place where I could finally breathe. That morning, my boss called me into his office. I remember walking in with my stomach twisted, convinced I was about to get chewed out for missing some detail in a client pitch. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, smiled, and said, "Katherine, congratulations. We're promoting you to senior account manager." The words hit me like sunlight breaking through clouds. A 30% salary increase, more responsibility, more recognition. I managed to thank him without sounding like I was about to cry, but when I walked back to my desk, I felt weightless. This was it. The break I had been working toward. The missing piece to finally make my dream home a reality. I couldn't concentrate after that. Every email blurred. Every phone call felt unimportant compared to the buzzing in my chest. By 2 o'clock, I decided I was done pretending to work. I wanted to celebrate properly with my family. I stopped at Mom's favorite bakery on the way home and bought a massive chocolate cake. Too much cake for 4 people, but I didn't care. I wanted the gesture to feel big. The drive to my parents' house felt like driving back in time. Same streets I rode my bike down as a kid, same cracked sidewalk I'd tripped on 100 times. Their house on Maple Street hadn't changed much either. White siding, a porch swing, and windows that always seemed to glow with warm light in the evenings. I still had a key, the one they gave me when I was a teenager, and they never asked for it back. I opened the front door quietly, balancing the cake box in my arms. I was about to call out when I heard voices from the kitchen. Mom's, Dad's, and my younger sister Michelle's. I paused, smiling at first, until I heard my name. "Katherine has got all that money saved up," Michelle was saying. "She must have at least 200 grand by now." I froze in the hallway, the weight of the cake suddenly unbearable. Dad chuckled. "Well, we've helped her build up that savings plenty of times." "Help me?" My heart thudded. Then Mom's voice. "Remember last year when I told her I needed money for Aunt Carol's treatments? She gave me $5,000 without even asking. We had such a nice time in Hawaii." The air punched out of my lungs. My aunt, alive, healthy, and living in Phoenix, never needed treatments. I remembered the guilt I carried, lying awake at night, worrying if Mom's sister would make it. Dad added, laughing, "And when I said I was sick, she handed me cash right away. That purse Michelle wanted was worth every lie." The words blurred. My vision narrowed. I clutched the cake tighter, fingers trembling. Michelle's voice again, smug and sweet. "Katherine is so easy. Last month I asked her for 1,000, and she didn't even blink. Just wired it to me. She trusts us completely." "Naive," Mom said. "She's always been naive. But this time we need serious money." Michelle's voice dropped. "I owe 150 grand. Credit cards, personal loans, friends, everyone. People are starting to call in favors. I'm screwed if I don't pay up." My stomach twisted. "Don't worry," Mom said smoothly. "I've got it figured out. I'll tell her I have cancer. She'll believe it, and she'll hand over everything. If she asks for records, I'll cry and act sick. She won't push. Michelle can fake the paperwork." "I'll coach you on the symptoms," Michelle chimed in. "She'll never know." Something inside me cracked. My legs felt like stone, but I forced myself backward, step by step, careful not to make a sound. My family, my own blood, had been bleeding me dry for years, and now they were plotting to strip me of everything. I slipped outside, the cool air hitting my burning face. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. My heart was a drumbeat in my ears. They thought I was naive. They thought I was a fool who would hand over my life savings. But I wasn't going to run away. Not this time. I straightened, wiped the tears blurring my eyes, and looked at the cake on the seat beside me. I wasn't going to let them know I had heard. Not yet. If they wanted to play this game, I would play too, but on my terms. I got out of the car, slammed the door louder than necessary, and jingled my keys as I walked up the steps. My voice was steady when I called out, "Hey everyone, I'm here." The kitchen fell silent. Footsteps shuffled. Then Mom appeared, plastering on a smile so wide it almost split her face. "Katherine, oh honey, what a wonderful surprise." Behind her, Michelle peeked out, her eyes a little too wide, her smile a little too sharp. Dad followed, clapping me on the shoulder with practiced warmth. I forced a smile, lifting the box. I brought cake. I have good news to share. If they wanted a performance, they were about to see mine. I set the cake down on the coffee table, forcing my hands to stay steady. My family circled around me with grins that looked too bright, too strained. If I hadn't overheard them, maybe I wouldn't have noticed the way Michelle's eyes darted to the cake like it was a bribe, or how Dad's hand lingered just a second too long on my shoulder, like he was steadying a marionette for the show. "So what's the occasion?" Dad asked, voice casual, though his eyes glittered with curiosity. I sat down, smoothing my skirt, and took a breath. I got promoted today. Senior account manager. Comes with a pretty big raise. Michelle's squeal was almost immediate. "Oh my God, Katherine, that's amazing!" She threw her arms around me, but the hug felt tight, possessive, like a snake wrapping itself around its prey. "Yes, that's wonderful news," Mom added, squeezing my hand with exaggerated pride. "I'm so proud of you, and now you'll be making even more money." There it was. Not "we're proud of your hard work," not "you deserve this," just money, always money. I leaned back, keeping my tone light. "Yeah, the raise is substantial. It's going to help a lot with my house fund. I've been saving for so long, and now I'm finally getting close to buying something really nice." Their faces flickered. Dad's brow tightened. Mom's smile froze. Michelle's lips twitched. "Now, Katherine," Dad said slowly, "you shouldn't rush into buying a house. That's a big decision. You need to think about it carefully." 100 times over, Mom echoed, her voice rising in practiced concern. She placed her hand dramatically against her forehead. "And don't forget you have family. We might need your help at some point." Michelle nodded along, eyes shining, as though this had been rehearsed, and I knew now that it had. I forced a laugh, though the sound felt jagged in my throat. "I've been saving for 5 years, Dad. I think I've thought about it plenty." Mom swayed slightly, sighing. "Oh, I'm sorry. I've just been feeling so unwell lately. Weak, achy, tired." Right on cue, Michelle leaned forward, her tone urgent. "I keep telling her she needs to see a doctor. I'll drag her to the hospital myself if I have to." I almost laughed. They were already setting the stage for their cancer act. I looked at them one by one, wondering how I had missed the cracks all these years. Had their smiles always been so hollow? Had their affection always been barbed? "You should definitely get checked out, Mom," I said gently, slipping into my role as the trusting daughter. "Health comes before anything." Her eyes shimmered with false gratitude. "You're such a good daughter, Katherine, always so caring about your family." The irony tasted bitter on my tongue. We spent another 10 minutes making small talk. Michelle asked about work with polite interest, but I saw the calculation in her gaze. Dad commented on the cake like it was the most extraordinary gift, though his eyes kept drifting toward me, as if measuring how far he could push. I barely touched the tea Michelle made. My stomach churned with every sip of their lies. When I finally excused myself, Mom clung to my arm. "So soon? You just got here." "I have some things to take care of at home," I said, pasting on a smile, "but I'm glad I got to share the news with you." I hugged them all goodbye, forcing myself not to recoil. Michelle's arms wrapped around me again. Too tight, too desperate. Dad patted my back like he was stamping approval on a check. Mom kissed my cheek, her lips cold. By the time I got to my car, my hands were trembling so badly I could barely fit the key into the ignition. I drove home on autopilot, pulling over twice just to calm the shaking. The second I walked into my apartment, I dropped my purse and grabbed my laptop. I needed to know the damage. 5 years of transfers, checks, Venmo payments, PayPal receipts. Every dollar I had given them for emergencies and illnesses and debts. 2 hours later, the number glared at me from the screen. $85,000. $85,000 I would never see again. Money that could have bought me a house already. Money I had sacrificed birthdays, vacations, dinners out to save. All gone, funneled into their lies. My chest felt hollow, but beneath the grief, something sharp began to grow. Anger. I opened a new account at a different bank, one my family had never heard of. I transferred every penny of my savings, my checking, even my emergency fund. Next, I cut ties to every shared app, PayPal, Venmo, that ridiculous family budgeting app Mom had insisted on. I changed my passwords, reset my security questions. I chose answers they would never guess, lies, half-truths, memories only I knew. It felt like reclaiming stolen territory. Then I remembered the house near their neighborhood, the one I had been about to bid on. Thank God I hadn't signed anything. I called my realtor, Janet, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Katherine, are you ready to make an offer? She asked brightly. Actually, Janet, I need to cancel everything. I'm not buying in that area anymore. Oh, can I ask why? Family issues, I said flatly. I won't be staying around here much longer. There was a pause, then a sympathetic sigh. I understand. After I hung up, I stared around my apartment, my safe little sanctuary. But even here, I felt their shadows pressing in. My parents lived only 20 minutes away. Michelle could show up at my door any time. I couldn't breathe knowing they were so close, circling, waiting for their next move. I grabbed my phone and dialed my boss. It was late, but he answered. Katherine, everything okay? I need to talk to you about the promotion. What about it? You're not having second thoughts, are you? I might be. I'm considering leaving entirely. I need to move away from this area. A long pause. That's sudden. What's going on? Family problems, I admitted. I can't stay here. Hold on, he said. We have branches in other states. What if I arrange a transfer? Same position, same raise. I blinked. Seriously? Absolutely. There's an opening in Phoenix. Would that work? Phoenix, where Aunt Carol actually lived. The bitter irony made me laugh. That would be perfect. Good. I'll make some calls tomorrow. When we hung up, I sank into my chair, exhausted but resolute. I was done being their puppet. They thought I was naive. They thought they could drain me dry, but I was about to prove them wrong. The next morning, I woke up to the shrill buzz of my phone. The caller ID lit up. Mom. My chest tightened. I almost let it ring out, but something inside me whispered, answer. See how far they're willing to go. Hi, Mom. Her voice was weak, trembling. Katherine, I went to the doctor. They think I might have cancer. I stared at the ceiling, biting my lip to stop the laugh bubbling in my throat. They weren't even waiting a full day before launching the act. Are you sure? I asked softly. A doctor told you that without test results? A pause, then, he's almost certain based on my symptoms. Katherine, I'm scared. I'm sure you are, I murmured. I'll come over. We should talk as a family. When I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floorboards. My anger, which had burned so hot yesterday, had cooled into something steadier, like steel. If this was the game they wanted, I was ready to play. By the time I reached Maple Street, my pulse was calm. I rang the doorbell instead of using my key. Dad answered, looking grim, his shirt wrinkled like he hadn't slept. His performance was good. I'll give him that. Katherine, thank God you're here, he said, gripping my arm. Your mother's been in bed all morning. She's in bad shape. He led me upstairs. Michelle was sitting beside Mom's bed, holding her hand. Mom lay under the covers, her face pale, her breathing heavy, eyes half-lidded. Oh, Katherine, she whispered. I'm so glad you came. I stepped closer, studying her face. She looked sick, but it was too polished. Her lipstick faintly smeared like she'd blotted it to look wan, her hair arranged just so. A performance. How are you feeling? I asked, voice low. Terrible. I can barely keep my eyes open. She coughed weakly, almost daintily. The pain. It's awful. Michelle's eyes flashed. The doctor says she needs surgery. Expensive surgery. It's going to cost $150,000, and we need to move fast if we want to save her. Dad added gravely, We don't have that kind of money, Katherine. You're the only one who can help. Mom started to cry, her voice breaking. I don't want to die, sweetheart. I'm not ready to leave you girls. Their gazes bore into me, desperate, pleading. To anyone else, it might have looked like a family in crisis. To me, it looked like theater. I folded my arms, letting silence stretch. Then, softly, I said, Okay, I think it's time we stop pretending. The room went still. Mom blinked. What are you talking about? I'm talking about yesterday, I said evenly. The conversation I overheard, the one where you planned this whole scheme, the fake cancer, the fake surgery, the rehearsed tears. Their faces shifted like masks cracking. Dad's jaw fell open. Mom's hand froze mid-clutch of the blanket. Michelle's eyes went wide, then narrowed. I know everything, I continued. The lies about Aunt Carol's treatments, Dad's fake illness, the purse, the vacations. Every single time you've bled me dry. For a long suspended moment, nobody spoke. Then Michelle exploded. Fine. You want the truth? I owe $150,000. To banks, to friends, to loan sharks. People are threatening me. I tried to start a business and it failed, okay? I screwed up, but I can't fix it without you. Her words came out in a rush, like vomit she couldn't hold in. You should have thought about that before taking people's money, I snapped. Katherine, please. Dad's voice cracked, more desperate than I'd ever heard. You've always helped us. Don't abandon us now. My hands shook, but not from fear, from rage. I pulled papers from my bag, bank statements I'd printed last night. I tossed them onto the bed. $85,000, I said coldly. That's how much I've given you in the past 5 years. That's what your lies have cost me. Vacations, purses, fake illnesses, while I worked myself to the bone saving for a home. They stared at the papers like they were written in blood. Mom's lips trembled. Sweetheart, we can explain. No, you can't. My voice was ice. There's no explanation that makes this okay. You didn't just take my money, you took my trust. You made me feel guilty for not doing enough while you laughed behind my back. Michelle reached for my arm, tears streaking her cheeks. Please, Katherine. If I don't pay, they'll come after me. I could go to jail. I pulled away sharply. That's not my problem. I'm not your savior. I'm not your bank. Her sobs filled the room, raw and jagged. Dad lowered his head into his hands. Mom whispered, Katherine, we're family. Blood is everything. I stood tall, my voice steady. Blood doesn't give you the right to destroy me. I'm done. I'm never giving you another cent. Figure it out yourselves. Their faces crumpled. Shock, disbelief, fear. I turned on my heel, walked out of the room, and down the stairs. As I reached the door, Mom called after me, her voice shrill, losing its frail act. Katherine, don't you dare walk away from this family. I didn't answer. The door slammed behind me, the sound echoing like a gavel. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already buzzing. Texts, missed calls, voicemails piling up like debris. I ignored them all, gripping the steering wheel until my palms ached. For the first time in years, I wasn't their victim. I was free, or so I thought. The barrage started almost immediately. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I had 12 missed calls, half a dozen voicemails, and nearly 20 text messages. My screen lit up again before I could even take a breath. Dad, Katherine, please, call me back. We can work this out. Michelle, you can't just abandon your sister. You're heartless. Mom, honey, I know you're angry, but you'll regret turning your back on us. I dropped the phone face down on the table, my chest heaving. A part of me wanted to scream back, to fire words like bullets, but another part of me, the smarter part, knew silence would cut deeper. That night, the voicemails came in waves. Katherine, it's Dad. Your sister's not eating. She's locked herself in her room. Please, she's not strong like you. Then Michelle, her voice ragged. You're ruining my life. If I go to prison, it'll be on you. Do you want that on your conscience? Then Mom, weeping softly. I raised you better than this. Family is supposed to help each other. I don't have much time left, Katherine. Don't waste it. I pressed delete again and again until the robotic voice in my phone announced, no new messages. But within an hour, they were back. The next few days blurred into a storm of harassment. Texts turned from begging to anger to guilt trips. Mom claimed Dad was having heart problems from the stress. Michelle sent long, desperate rants about creditors hounding her, some messages barely coherent. Dad wrote about how disappointed he was in me. And through it all, I stayed silent. But silence didn't stop them. It only escalated things. 1 week later, as I was leading a team meeting about a new account, my assistant knocked nervously on the glass door. Katherine, sorry to interrupt, but there's a woman at reception. She says she's your mother. She insists it's an emergency. My stomach dropped. My pen froze mid-sentence. My team exchanged glances, their curiosity sharpening like knives. I forced a smile. Excuse me a moment. When I reached the lobby, the sight froze me. Mom stood at the front desk, hair disheveled, eyes swollen from fake tears. She was raising her voice at the receptionist, her hands flying dramatically. I need to see my daughter. This is a family emergency. Her sister is going to jail. The receptionist looked helpless. Ma'am, please calm down. This isn't appropriate. Mom, I said sharply. She turned, relief and desperation flooding her face. Katherine, thank God. You have to help us. Michelle is drowning in debt. Your father and I are about to lose the house. We can't fix this without you. Every head in the lobby swiveled. Coworkers walking past slowed to stare. I caught sight of 2 junior associates from my team whispering near the elevators, eyes wide. My cheeks burned. Mom, you can't come here, I hissed, glancing around. Why not? You're my daughter. I have a right to talk to you. Her voice was shrill, echoing against the high ceilings. No, you don't, a security guard interjected firmly, stepping closer. Not at her workplace. Don't touch me, Mom snapped, jerking her arm away when he reached for her elbow. I'm her mother. You can't keep me from her. The entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. Phones were out. Somebody was recording. My heart pounded in my ears. Mom, please, I said, lowering my voice. You're making a scene. Tears streaked her cheeks as she reached toward me. Katherine, please, don't let them take your sister to prison. Don't let us lose everything. You'll regret this for the rest of your life. The guard was firm now. Ma'am, you need to leave, right now. She twisted in his grip, shouting even louder. Katherine, don't do this. We're your family. The words echoed through the lobby as she was escorted toward the glass doors. I stood frozen, every nerve screaming with humiliation. My coworkers' eyes followed me as whispers spread like wildfire. When the doors finally shut behind her, the silence in the room was deafening. I forced my shoulders straight, my chin high, and walked back toward the elevators, ignoring the murmurs, the sympathetic looks, the judgment. By the time I got back to my office, my hands were trembling. I closed the blinds, sat at my desk, and let out a shaky breath. My phone buzzed again, another string of messages. I didn't look. Instead, I picked up the phone and called my realtor contact in Phoenix. I need to find a place to live immediately, I said, my voice firm. Something we can close on quickly. Already? She asked. Didn't you want to take a few weeks to settle in? No, I interrupted. I need this done as soon as possible. When I hung up, I called my boss. Can we speed up the transfer? My family situation is out of control. I need to leave town. There was a pause on the other end. I'll see what I can do, he said gently. I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding, but this time not from fear, from determination. If my family wanted to drag me through the mud, they'd have to do it without me present. I was done playing their game. 2 weeks later, I was boarding a plane with 2 suitcases and my laptop. Everything else was packed and shipped by movers. I hadn't told my parents or Michelle. I hadn't even left a note. One day I was there, the next I was gone. As the plane lifted off, I pressed my forehead against the window, watching the city shrink beneath the clouds. For the first time in years, I felt like I was escaping a cage I hadn't realized I was trapped in. Phoenix greeted me with scorching sunlight and wide, open skies. The company had arranged a month-long stay at a hotel while I settled in, and the first night I lay awake in the unfamiliar room, I felt 2 things at once: crushing loneliness and exhilarating freedom. No one here knew me as the naive daughter or the walking ATM. I was just Katherine. The Phoenix office welcomed me warmly. My new team was enthusiastic, collaborative, and grateful for my experience. On my first day, a colleague invited me to join a group of women who went out for drinks every Friday. At first I hesitated, but then I realized these people didn't want anything from me but my company. That thought alone made my throat tighten. Still, the ghosts of my family clung to me. At night, I'd scroll through old photos, family vacations, birthdays, Christmas mornings, Michelle blowing out candles while I stood off to the side, Mom hugging me with a smile that now looked like a mask, Dad grinning as I handed over another emergency check. Every picture, every memory felt poisoned. But little by little, the poison faded. By the end of the first month, I was touring houses with a new realtor named Sarah. She was sharp, funny, and unflinchingly honest. Everything I needed. When she showed me a modest 2-bedroom house in Scottsdale with a tidy yard and sunlit kitchen, I felt something click inside me. You sure you want to make an offer this fast? Sarah asked, eyebrows raised. You've only been here a few weeks. I'm sure, I said, my voice trembling with certainty. This is it. This is what I've been working for. The closing went smoothly. When I walked through the front door with the keys in hand, the emptiness of the house felt holy. I pressed my palm against the wall, the paint cool beneath my skin, and tears slipped down my cheeks before I could stop them. This was mine, not bought with guilt, not tainted with manipulation, mine. That first week, I slept on a mattress on the floor, surrounded by unopened boxes. Every morning, I padded into the kitchen barefoot, brewed coffee, and sat by the window, watching sunlight flood the empty room. It felt like possibility incarnate. I started planting herbs in the small backyard garden: basil, rosemary, mint. As I pushed my hands into the soil, I thought about how much time I'd spent burying myself in other people's needs. Now I was planting something for me, something that would grow under my care and no one else's control. Work thrived, too. My boss in Phoenix valued my input, often pulling me into meetings with top clients. My salary increase gave me breathing room, and for the first time in my adult life, I allowed myself small luxuries: a new couch, dinner at a restaurant without glancing at the price column, a weekend hike with colleagues where I actually laughed, the sound startlingly free. There were still nights when guilt crept in, whispering, "They're your family. You abandoned them." But then I would remember Mom's voice, feigning weakness to scam me. Michelle's mocking laugh as she called me so easy. Dad's chuckle when he recalled my $5,000 donation funding their Hawaii trip. Blood might tie us, but blood had also bled me dry. One evening, I invited a few coworkers over to christen the house. We sat on the floor with pizza boxes and cheap wine, laughter echoing against bare walls. At one point, someone raised a glass and said, "Here's to Katherine, finally living her dream." I nearly cried, but instead I smiled. It was the first time anyone had toasted to me without expecting something in return. Later, after everyone left, I walked barefoot across the quiet house. The moonlight spilled across the floorboards, soft and silver. I curled up on the couch I'd just bought and whispered to the silence, "I did it." And for the first time in forever, I believed it. 3 months after I'd planted my herbs in the backyard, I was finally starting to feel settled. My basil had sprouted, mint leaves spread like wildfire, and every morning I'd water them before work, breathing in the sharp green scent like it was the perfume of freedom. One evening, my phone buzzed with a familiar name. Emma, my old high school friend. I'd given her my new number, one of the very few from my past who still deserved a place in my present. "Katherine, how are you liking Phoenix?" she asked. "I love it," I said honestly. "I bought a house, the job's going well, and I'm happy." The word felt strange, fragile, but true. There was a pause on the other end. "That's actually why I'm calling. I ran into your parents at the grocery store." My stomach tightened. "Oh?" "They asked me for your number, said they really miss you, that they want to reconnect." I closed my eyes. I could almost hear Mom's tearful voice, Dad's heavy sigh, Michelle's pleading tone. I imagined them circling Emma like vultures. "What did you say?" I asked. "I told them I'd ask you first." "Don't give it to them," I said firmly. Another pause. "Katherine, they seemed desperate. Your mom said they had to sell their house, that they're living in some tiny apartment now, and Michelle still has debt problems." For a moment, guilt pricked my chest, sharp as a thorn. I pictured my childhood home, Maple Street, the porch swing, the warm glow of the windows, now belonging to someone else. I pictured my parents squeezed into a cramped apartment, Michelle pacing with creditors hounding her. But then another memory rose. Mom laughing about Hawaii with my $5,000, Dad grinning over Michelle's purse, Michelle mocking me as so easy. The guilt evaporated. "They made their choices," I said quietly, "and I made mine." Emma sighed. "Okay, I won't give them your number." "Thank you." After we hung up, I sat on my porch, the desert night warm against my skin. Crickets sang, and the smell of mint drifted from the garden. I stared at my silent phone, waiting for the usual flood of texts and calls, but nothing came, just silence. And I realized how precious that was. Weeks passed. My new life expanded in small, joyful ways. I joined a local hiking group, exploring trails that cut through canyons glowing gold at sunset. I laughed with coworkers over Friday drinks, the weight of expectation nowhere to be found. I even went on a date with a man I met at a coffee shop, a gentle, funny guy who asked about my dreams instead of my wallet. Every day I grew lighter, as if shedding layers I'd carried since childhood. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder about my family. Were they still trying to scam people? Were they drowning in Michelle's debts? Did they hate me, or secretly hope I'd come back? Part of me wanted answers, but a larger part didn't care. They had built their lives on lies. Now they were living in the ruins. One Saturday morning, I stood barefoot in my garden, watering the basil and rosemary. Sunlight spilled over the fence, painting everything gold. I felt the earth cool beneath my toes, the water misting against my skin. I thought about how my life used to feel, like I was constantly digging myself deeper into a hole, shoveling money and trust into a bottomless pit. And now? Now I was planting things, growing things. My money was my own. My choices were my own. My life was my own. I set the watering can down and closed my eyes, listening to the rustle of leaves. For the first time in my adult life, the silence wasn't emptiness. It was peace. And I promised myself I would never ever let anyone take that away again.